Hello, welcome in another coding session video where we are working on a game made in Python with Turtle library. We are using Turtle library for rendering graphics and creating the game overall. This is the third part of the video in which we are going to create the collisions between the projectiles and the enemies. In the last lecture, we have created projectiles. Currently, they are not colliding with the enemies. So the current state of the game is this. We have a turtle, but when the collision between the projectile and the enemy will happen, nothing happen. And we would like to, of course, destroy the enemy when the collision will happen, so we have some chance against these endless waves of the enemies. Okay, so as always, you can download the code in the description of the video. There are the links to my GitHub repository or to the zip file, so feel free to get the latest code and we can start coding together. So the first thing, my idea is to place the projectiles outside of the player, because currently we are creating the projectiles group in the player. I want to move it outside, and I would like to create a collisions between the enemies and the projectiles. So I want to pass to the projectiles enemies so I can check the distances between the game objects. So the simple collision system will be based on the distance. We'll be checking the distance between the projectile and the enemy, and if this distance will be smaller than some threshold, then it will destroy the projectile and both and also enemy. So basically this, right? When you have our game and we have this is the projectile, and let's say this is the enemy. The projectile is moving to the enemy, and we'll be checking the distance between them, so how far they are between each other. So let's say they are far 40 pixels, but if they will be closer, let's say the projectile will go and will be overlapping with the enemy, so distance between the distance between them will be, let's say, less than 15 pixels, then we'll destroy them, both of them. Okay, so just simple collision system like this. Okay, let's do it. Let's start with the simple task. Go to the player, and as we are creating here a group of projectiles, we will move it outside. So we'll copy this line. I'll go to main, and I'll create a projectiles under the window. Simply projectiles equal group of projectiles. It's complaining because we don't have projectiles in this file, so we'll go up here. I will write here from projectile import projectile. This will fix it. Okay, and we'll pass this projectiles to the player like this, and we'll go to the player. And we'll say here in the constructor init method that we'll get here projectiles, which is the group of projectile. I'll be passing these projectiles here. Okay, then I will save this and we will run the code. Everything should work as before. So yeah, everything works. We have projectiles, perfect. So let's get back here and let's create these collisions. So in our group, so the projectiles and the enemies are both groups. I would like to create a parameter in each group that we can pass another group to it, and we can check the distances between the group items. So I will go to the group class here, and I will write here a new parameter. We need to create here init method, a constructor. So I'll write here define here init. All right, we'll call here super init. Init like this, and this is a self. Okay, and then we'll pass here collision group group, which will be type of the group. When you write it like this, you'll get the issue, so you need to wrap it in the quotation signs like this. Is the type of the group. And then I will create here attribute collision group equal collision group. Self should be here, self collision group. Okay, so now we are passing here collision group. Amazing. We can go back to main, and you will save this. You will get here two issues because projectiles and enemies expecting the collision groups to be passed to them in the constructors. So first, I will move the enemies above the projectiles like this, and on the projectiles, I will write here collision group. This will be our enemies. This will fix the eval issue. Now we are passing the collision group for the projectile enemies, and on the enemies, I'll write here collision group, and I'll write here none. They will not have any collision group, the enemies. Okay, now we can go back to group, and here in the for loop, I will create another for loop, and I will be looping over this collision group, and I will be checking if the distance between the collision group item is smaller than the distance between the item of this group. So we'll be checking the distances between the group of, in this case, projectiles and a group of enemies. Okay, so here in a for loop on this level here, I'll write here for. We'll call it, we have here up here, we have entity. This we can call other entity or collision entity or other entity like this. In self collision group. All right, I'll be checking distance if entity distance between the other entity position, other entity, what does it doesn't offer me? Other entity is, wait a second, self in collision group is defined here. Okay, let's define it as the generic parameter. So it's a type of T here. Yeah, that should give me the type checking that this is the group. All right, so just place it right like this way here. Okay, and now other entity dot position like this. And if this is smaller than 15, then the collision happens. So right here, just a print collision like this. Okay, let's try it out. So I'll make it smaller so you can actually see the logs. I'll play the game. I want to go to the main file. All right, so let's check it out. Check the non-type object. Okay, so what happened now when we spawn the players? The enemies are a group itself. So when this code was executed here in a self-collision group, this was none for the enemies because the collision group is none for enemies. So we need to write here if statement. So we'll need to check here if it's none. So we'll write here if self-collision group is not none, type is not none. I'll write here in front of it if not self-collision group is none. Like this, and I will move this to the right side, this way. Okay, so we need checking if the collision group is not none, so we have something there, only then we want to iterate it. Okay, so let's go back to main. I will just make this smaller so we can see the console here. Okay, now it should be fine. All right, let's play the game. And we should see the collisions when I will, yeah, you see? The projectiles collided with the enemy, and we have the collision lock in. Yeah, perfect. So this works. That's good. Okay, so what we need to do now? So we check that for our collisions in our group here. So what we are going to do now? We are going to destroy the entities, right? So our other entity, which is our enemy, we will write here active, and we'll write here active false. And now it's up to you. Do you want to destroy a projectile? Because if you don't destroy the projectile will continue in its travel movement. So let's see it. I'll try to run it again. And now we should be destroying the enemies when the collisions will happen. Didn't collide properly. See, I'm destroying them. Oh, I cannot turn so fast, and the enemies are too quick for me. Oh, this is super difficult, I must say. But you can definitely destroy enemies. Oh yeah, it's super hard. But it works. Okay, so you can see the projectile. As the projectile collides, it's continued traveling. As you see, it's a really difficult game. So if you will write it this way, when you will go back, you can also destroy the other the projectile itself. So in the group here, when you will write here also entity active to false, also you will destroy it also the projectile itself. We can make enemies slower. We go to enemy class, and you will get here. We are not setting the movement speed for enemies. Interesting. The game entity default speed is 150. So we'll go to the enemy, and it will write here self movement speed to 100 only. Now the enemy should be slower. So when I will go now, see, and the projectile is now destroyed as it is colliding. Okay, 100 speed is even better because it's easier. But of course, when we want to make the game harder, we can make the enemies faster. And also, maybe it would be good if we could create a faster turn for the player, because current turn speed is not that good. We are turning very slowly. Maybe I can achieve to change it right now, and I will go back. I'll go to the player, and we have a turn speed. Okay, that will be nice to figure it out. We have a movement speed definitely, and where we are turning angle, turn to angle, angle difference. All right, normalize direction to angle, angle difference, turn step here. 360 here is a set turn step. So if we can increase it even more, let's say to 500, we should be turning faster now. So let's try it out. Yeah, we are turning much faster. Okay, yeah. Okay, you can optimize your game as you want. That's completely up to you. If you want to projectile continue in its continue to live after it will hit the enemy, you can just remove this active on the projectile. Currently, I am currently destroying the projectiles as they will collide with the enemy. So yeah, this is really difficult. The other improvement would be not turn into the as I'm pressing the keys on the keyboard, not turn to the direction of my keyboard press, but on the mouse. It will be good if it will be moving and it will be turning into the mouse as the cursor on the screen, and then it would be shooting will be much easier then, because now it's not very intuitive. It will be good if we could use the cursor on the map and that the turtle will be turning into the cursor. This will be actually I will implement in the next lecture. But so far it works good. Yeah. Okay, so I'm pretty happy about this functionality. Okay, and this concludes this video. So if you want to disable also, you don't want to destroy, if you want to keep the projectile alive, just remove the entity active. I think I will leave it this way here. I will destroy both the enemy and both the projectile. So I set them to the false activity of them, and then they will be destroyed up here. Okay, that's gonna be it from this video. Let's continue next one. We will be turning the turtle into the cursor as is on the map. It will be pointing turtle to the cursor, so the game is more easier to play, because I think it's kind of difficult. Okay, that's it, and see you next one. Cheers.